Today we'll be discussing the best sneakers to hold and why that is. I'll preface this with a disclaimer that the amount of variables that go into this are infinite. Hypothetically, this video could end up being several hours long if I were to go into depth into every single variable. Therefore, in consideration of your time, I will only be giving a brief synopsis of this theory in this video. Feel free to use the comments section to discuss this even further. Also, be sure to subscribe and enable post notifications just so you stay 100% updated on all hyped releases. Essentially, the focus today will revolve around Jordan 1 mids and Jordan 1 lows. When considering investing in sneakers long term, the primary justification people create for holding sneakers is how much will that sneaker go up. However, the vast majority of people are missing out on the exponentially more valuable factor, the margin. To provide an example to illustrate the importance of this, let's take a look at the Off-White Jordan 5 that dropped in February of 2020. Considering this sneaker was quite limited and extremely in high demand, holding these was a rational notion for most. Looking at what the sneaker is selling for now, let's specifically look at size 10 for consistency purposes, around $900 or so, compared to what they were going for a week to 2 weeks after the drop, when everyone would have received their pairs from shipments at around $800 on average. And a little later, around $850 before they ironically had a massive dip, and we'll discuss that dip towards the end of the video as well. So hypothetically, even if someone held even through that period where they did end up dipping and reaching their trough, they would have made around an extra $100 profit or so due to their patience over the course of numerous months. Now, after illustrating the importance of the margin, I actually mentioned why super hype shoes like this aren't too volatile and that there are some exceptions too, but we must focus on majority. Now, on the other hand, from those Jordan 5s, let's take a look at the Jordan 1 mid multicolor. I chose this sneaker to demonstrate my point for two reasons. For one, this colorway is arguably ugly as fuck, for lack of a better word. Kidding, obviously my opinions aren't valid for a reason, of course. The actual reason is that it dropped even later than the Off-White Jordan 5, a whole 2 months later in fact, just to prove my point even further. And the second reason, these were actually just barely profitable initially, unlike the Off-White Jordan 5s, which were extremely profitable initially. So from the beginning, these were just selling for around $10 to $20 profit. As of October 2020, they are currently going for an average of around $210 or so in that size 10 that we're using for consistency purposes. Now, with a conservative estimate, one could say that these increased around $70 on average, conservatively. Now, alright, let's set up a basic 4th grade proportion for the Off-White Jordan 5s compared to these ugly mids. For simplicity, let's go with the middle size on both again, size 10, which seems to be the most fair approach to this. Now, on the left, we have the beautiful Jordan 5, which one could have sold for $800 when they received their pairs from shipments, compared to what they sell for now at around $900 in that size. On the other side, we could have initially sold the Jordan 1 Multi for around $135 to $140, let's say $140 again just to be extra conservative, and then we can also say on average they're selling for around $210 in the size 10. What you're seeing on the screen right now is the actual prices. Now let's see what it would take for this to be an equivalent hold, essentially what it would take for them to be both worth holding equally. First, let's remove what the 5s are going for now and set up a proportion to see what they would have to go for in order for them to be equal. Just to clarify, in case anyone forgot proportions, I am multiplying 800 by 210, then dividing the outcome by 140 to solve for the price that the Jordan 5 would have to be in order for these to be equal. Again, I'm doing this to illustrate the importance of the margin rather than just looking at the profit alone. After this basic calculation, we find that in order for them to be equally worth the hold, the 5s would need to be going for $1,200. That's a whole $300 more than what they are now. So regardless of the fluctuations of, oh, okay, maybe the 5s are selling for $950 now. No, Keith, it's not $900. I could easily sell those Jordan 5s for $950 or so. Well, that's only $50 difference. Now, I don't doubt the possibility that a size 10 will eventually hit that. In fact, I believe it will eventually in time. However, the mids will also continue to increase along with that. Most importantly though, the mids are 2 months behind. they dropped in April in comparison to the 5s that dropped in February. So again, this is just proving my point even further with this. Also keep in mind, this was just a conservative estimate. I'm using these multi-mids just as a conservative estimate. We're going to be showing some other mids that are even more ridiculous than these. Now, let's have some fun, just like what I was talking about. I illustrated the point with a conservative sneaker, now let's peruse some even more insane ones. And this is what you'll actually be seeing more often than not if you're choosing the correct ones, which I'll discuss how to do. Also, one thing to note about the mids I'm going to be showing, these don't have release dates, unlike the one I just showed before, which actually did have release date, which means the majority of the time when you do cop mids or lows, they'll already be at their low point, even if the beginning of the chart that I'll be showing on the screen does show a little bit higher. So you might see a slight dip on some of them, but that's strictly because they don't just release all on the same date. When you see the trough in price, that's when majority of pairs are in circulation, and that's when you'll likely end up copying your pairs. So with that, let's get into this. Let's peruse a little. Now, of course, that can go on forever. Now let's discuss how to actually know specifically which mids and which lows will be worth a hold, because believe me, not all are. Feel free to peruse more on StockX or Go, all the data is there for you to see. First, when it comes to sizes, small sizes in Jordan 1 lows, mids, and even highs, which we're not talking about today, but for mids, lows, and highs, always smaller sizes are best, and they will increase the most in comparison to the other sizes. Although when it comes to mids and lows, even those other sizes will tend to increase as well, just not as rapidly. Specifically, sizes under 10, but the smaller the better. Also, grade school sizes tend to rise even more than the men's, even if they're the smaller men's sizes. All sizes are great for grade school, but normally, again, similar to men's, the smaller the better. Now, in order to know which mids to hold, which lows to hold, etc., the most important thing is if they are already in high demand when you do get your pair in hand, when you are going for them. If you can make a little bit of lunch money off a Jordan 1 mid or low, like you could sell it for $10 profit, $15 profit or so, and they had just started releasing that month that you would cop them in, there is a high probability that those will be a very solid hold. Mids and lows that are not very profitable but still sell out quick and never go on sale or sit anywhere are also still pretty good, but it's still safest to side with the pairs that are already profitable. I wouldn't really say safest, considering they're all very relatively safe holds. It's not like you would lose anything really. It's just that those other ones where you're already making money off of, you'll make even more money on those in comparison to these. A good example would be on the sand purple mids, which were initially maybe at most you can make $5 profit on when the most pairs were in circulation, and now they're still an incredible hold. Now, that's all you really need to know when making decisions on your own for which to hold, but just to provide some examples of some that I'm currently holding, these are just a few examples of the many I'm holding, starting with the Chicago mids. Funny story, I actually got over 200 of these from one single restock overnight, all under size 9. These actually used to be really easy to hit, believe it or not, and these will continue to rise without a doubt in the future. The same goes for the grade school pairs. Another good one that I'm holding is the 2020 Chicago mid. They've already went up a decent bit, but still have plenty more room to go with this colorway. And again, the same goes for the grade school pairs for these. The Jordan 1 low women's UNC, these already rose a ton. I'm really happy that I held a good amount of these, but I still believe they do still have some more room to go. Give them another year or so. Jordan 1 low gym red, these just recently started increasing a few months ago despite being complete bricks in March. I got way too many of these in March, and if I were to sell them then I would have lost money, but I decided to keep holding and it paid off, and I still am going to keep holding these because I do feel that they will keep on going up. The Jordan 1 Mid White Shadow and Men in Grade School, there's still plenty of room to go in the future for these as well. The Jordan 1 Low Reverse Spread is also really good still, considering they're still extremely low. The same goes for the grade school pairs. Now, as for an example of one that has not yet released that you should consider holding when you do end up getting the pairs is the Jordan 1 Low Gym Red. Not the same as the prior Gym Red that I was just talking about. This stock keeping unit is 553558-605. So when you do see those released, maybe you'll want to consider holding these as well. Then another example, which is what I just mentioned in my prior video actually, the Shattered Backboard Lows will drop in August, and based on how the last colorway that was very similar to these in the Shattered Backboard Lows held up after initially being a brick, these will certainly be a solid hold too. Now, of course, I can really go on forever for a very long time. These aren't even the only ones I'm holding, of course, but the point of this video is more or less for you to actually just understand the concept to find your own mids and lows to invest in, because these products I mentioned might not be relevant by the time you're watching this video. Maybe a year or two after me uploading it, you might be watching it. It's kind of crazy. Am I talking in the future right now? And now finally, I want to explain why the most hyped sneakers don't increase in value as much as the general release shoes. Again, there are a lot of variables, but I'm only going to be breaking it down in a simplistic manner. First, too many people are anticipating an increase in price just because the sneaker is limited and in high demand. It's a very cliche misconception, which sometimes even leads with the shoe being overbought. A good analogy for this is even in the stock market when a company makes an announcement for an upcoming product and that product ends up not performing as well as people would have anticipated, which actually leads to the price of the stock going down, which is what we ended up seeing on Battery Day for Tesla. For example, the Off-Whites that actually saw a dip in price a month after the drop, almost like people started giving up on their holds. The Chunky Dunk also going for a whopping $1,600, but they've hardly changed at all since their drop in May. And second, a large portion of the sneaker market is already eliminated due to the high price. Many people only want to spend $100 to $300, not $500 to $2,000. One can argue that supply and demand is proportional, but then why do we still continue to see tons of these very limited shoes plateauing? Now, that's not to say that limited shoes can't go up, but rather, a sneaker being limited and hyped is not enough to make an educated investment. For example, the Strange Loves went up a ton. Very hyped sneaker, very limited, and saw a rapid increase and was an amazing hold. There are tons like this, of course, but my point is, a shoe being limited is not enough to make that educated decision. It's kind of just a guessing game at that point. On the other hand, lots of these Jordan 1 mids and lows that are lunch money as they're releasing are following these same exact patterns year after year. This isn't anything new, so yes, a limited sneaker by all means has the potential to be a worthy hold. However, it is far more likely to have exponentially more success with something that has been following a similar pattern for years. Keep it simple for maximum efficiency. I would much rather hold multiple Jordan 1 mids in a colorway that is selling for lunch money profit rather than holding the Off-White Jordan 5 sale when those drop. Although I do personally believe the Off-White Jordan 5 sale will eventually go up when those do drop, I still would much rather be holding the Jordan 1 mids because of the better margin and because of the consistency of this same pattern going on for many years. So next time you cop a Jordan 1 mid that's around $15 to $20 profit after seller fees, perhaps you consider holding it for a year or two, only if you have the capital. This is something I want to end on too because it's very important. I get asked all the time if you should hold or sell a sneaker, and this is the most important thing. You should never hold any sneakers if you don't have sufficient capital to continue going for drops at your full potential. Now with that, I'll conclude the video. Be sure to subscribe and enable post notifications to stay 100% updated on all hyped releases and other videos just like this to help you make more money or just to help you cop your grails. Leave a like if you enjoyed or you perhaps learned a thing or two, and also be sure to head on over to the comments section to share your notions on this topic or what holds you are looking forward to in the future, etc. Also, feel free to check the links in the description for reliable, fast residential proxies or Nike sneakers and Adidas accounts. With that though, I'll see you guys later. Have a fantastic rest of your day. Happy hunting.